Oh God, you guys. Ugh. I gotta tell you about my night. I should say I'm a little bit intoxicated. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that fucking word. We'll just go with intoxicated. God, you guys are gonna think I'm such a drunk because like I was drinking last video and this I literally drink like maybe once a month. I never do, but it was warranted tonight. I just had like a fucking flask of whiskey. God, I'm dropping shit. Sorry. So yeah, we need to like story time. This is like very impromptu video. Excuse the everything. I'm missing an AirPod. Like just excuse everything. But holy shit, do I need to tell you guys what happened? Okay, so I had not used Tinder in forever. I got banned from it for having my picture at the White House. And then I got myself unbanned, but I hadn't really used it since then. So I don't know. So anyway, for whatever reason, I decided to re-download Tinder today. I make great decisions. So anyway, I matched with this guy who it turned out lived like 2 blocks away from me. So he was very attractive in his pictures, I will say. We'll get to that in a minute, but so he was like, when are you free? And I was like, well, I'm kind of busy the next few nights, but I'm free tonight. He was like, oh yeah, let's hang out. I'm like, okay, cool. So we made plans to meet at like 7, I think. Then as it got closer to 7, I kind of realized I didn't really want to all that much. So I was like, let's meet at 8. Let's meet at 9. Let's meet at 9:15. Like, I think I woke up like 10 minutes before I was supposed to meet him. And you can tell, like, I haven't shaved. I look like a mess, you know, so yeah, whatever. But anyway, so I was like, let's go to the park. We'll have a park date. Which, by the way, some of you guys have such a bug up your ass about park dates. I don't know why. Liz, I'm talking to you. I love park dates. I don't know. It's like this very nice big park that's near me. I don't know what's wrong with that. I mean, you know, I like park dates with like the right person that can be nice, but you know, not this one. So, anyway, so I didn't want to go, and I had found his social media right before. I found his Facebook. Oh, he's a super social justice warrior. He literally had posts that were like, Republicans literally want trans kids to die. They literally are being literally literal. So I really did not want to go, but you know, I guess I'm just not the type to like stand somebody up or cancel last minute. Like that, I've had that done to me so many fucking times. That's the worst feeling in the world. So I wouldn't do that to somebody else. So I just like pushed myself. I didn't even change my underwear. I was like, I'll go for a little bit and come home. Why did I tell you guys that? That was too much information. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So we meet in front of my building. He comes here. And he's like 7 feet tall. So later on, I was literally like looking up at him and pointing. So we meet up. I gotta describe him to you guys. Like, he wasn't bad looking. No, he's very good looking, like in a picture. But somebody's demeanor and vibe and all that can just make them very unattractive, I guess. And I'm sorry. Okay, so like, we're all fucking superficial bitches. We all go off of like pictures and shit on Tinder and dating apps. At least for gay guys, they should make you hear their voice. They should make you hear that fucking voice, because as soon as he opened his mouth, it was like you could just feel your stomach sink when he walked up and was like, "Hey, hey." Oh. Gay voice is an epidemic, let me tell you. Oh God. And so maybe I didn't realize it's still like a couple minutes in, but like, I gotta describe to you. Like, he was standing there like this. Like he's a goddamn fucking Lasso Opso or something. So we would be talking or whatever, and he'd be gesturing with one hand, and would just be standing there like this with the other. I'm sorry, not to be derogatory, but like, if you're gonna like carry yourself like this, I am not going to be sexually attracted to you. I'm sorry. And that's cool with many people, believe me. There are many people hearing that who are like, thank God, dodged a bullet. Like, so you don't have to want me to be, but I'm just saying that is never gonna happen if you're walking around like this. So anyway, so we're walking, and he had wanted to go to a gay bar, which, fuck no, fuck that. There is this one skeevy little gay bar near me in my neighborhood. It's maybe like a mile away. It's literally off a fucking highway. I got dragged there once. One time years ago, never again. Because this fucking place, it's off a highway, and it just feels like stepping into North Dakota or something. You know, like, I mean, I've never been to North Dakota, and he took big issue with me saying that. He's like, what do you mean, white people? I'm like, no. But can't you picture in like somewhere like Idaho or North Dakota, there's like a highway with a gay bar on the side of it, and all the really sad people go there, and ugh. So I was telling him about this place. I'm like, it's literally like North Dakota. I was like, the one time I got dragged there, it was the weirdest thing. There was this like fucking half-ass, not even half-ass, this like half-ass drag queen with like the lopsided wig, and she had this one super fan who was like, who looked like he was maybe like 19, and was there in the front row, and every fucking thing she did, he was just like, it was fucking weird. So I'm telling him this thinking like, it's a funny anecdote and we're gonna have some laughs or something. Oh no. So the only thing he had to say to this, he goes, well, honey, she's working for it. Again, I'm sorry, not to be derogatory, but like, if we ever go on a date and you utter the words to me, honey, she is working for it, we are never sleeping together. I promise you. Somebody back me up on this shit. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you are causing balls to shrivel up and disintegrate and like I as soon as he said that, I could feel my balls crawl up into my body. I feel them here now, just bouncing. So anyway, this is like 2 blocks we've walked at this point. So he asks me what do I do? And I've learned by now. So I was just like, oh, I'm a writer and I host podcasts sometimes. And that's it. Nothing else. I wanted to enjoy my evening. I didn't want to get into it. I wanted to be vague. So I've learned though, if you say podcasts, they will leave you alone. Writer and podcasts, no follow-up. That must sound boring or something. If you say YouTube, there will be follow-up questions. So I asked him, what do you do? And he said he's some sort of like, I forget the term he used, some kind of like psychiatrist, not assistant, but like he's like the assistant director to the psychiatrist. I don't know. If someone knows, let me know. But so I was kind of excited when I heard that because I'm like, ooh, crazy people. We're going to have shit to talk about because like, I can relate to crazy people, you know? So I told him that. I was like, oh my God, when I was a little kid, my grandma was in a mental institution and they gave her shock treatment and I would go visit her in the mental institution. And so like, I have fond memories of the mental institution. Like, I will tell you guys those stories someday. They are amazing. Like, I love crazy people. So I said to him, I was like, oh my God, tell me all the stories about the crazy people. To which he says, I actually don't use the word crazy. Yeah, it's actually like super derogatory. So I'm still trying to be like funny, charming, whatever, to no avail. And so I say to him, I was like, oh, well, you know, as a crazy person, that's our word. We've reclaimed it. So, I mean, I could feel his ass cheeks clenching, that he did the retracto head, and it was like, So yeah, so this was, we walked down the block, next block over, and that's it. So this was like the opening 2 minutes. And so like for the last month, I've kind of been hung up on someone, torturing myself over it, and it is done and dead and over now, and it blew up in my face and turned to shit. But the time that we actually spent together on our date was fucking spectacular, you know, like some shit out of a movie. So yeah, it took me all of like 15 seconds tonight to realize this ain't gonna be one of those dates. I need to drink more. It's this. So things were semi-pleasant for like 2 blocks, and This ended up being what set him off, though. So it was like, where are you from? Where are you from? We're both from New York. So I had told him, yeah, I'm really getting sick of it here. I'm sort of planning to like get an apartment, take the year to figure out where else to move. And he's like, where would you move? So I was like, maybe Texas. I kind of want to explore around there more. I was just there. It was really nice. He fucking fixated on this shit and flipped out. Why would you want to move to Texas? That's like really weird. And I could see his thought bubble. I could hear his thoughts that I know as soon as I said anything pleasant about Texas, even though plenty of places in Texas are super fucking leftist, I could tell the light bulb went off in his head like, oh shit, I'm out with one of the bad people. So I didn't want to go there. I could already tell this was not going to be a fun evening for me. So I just kind of wanted to like get out of this conversation. And I was just like, oh, there's lots to do there. And he's like, what is there to do there? His voice dropped an octave. I was just like, oh, stuff, bars. There are bars there. Because, you know, I wanted to say, less communists, no masks, less lockups is wonderful. But, you know, I wasn't going to go there. So eventually he says to me, he's like, well, I think in Texas there's just lots of Trump people. And without even thinking, I was just like, exactly. I'm really not good at being, like, on the down low. So anyway, this conversation felt like it went on for fucking ever. I mean, other than this, we were literally just talking about, like, the weather, and it was I can make conversation with fucking anybody. Literally, like, grandmas, kids, whoever. Like, I can make fucking conversation with people, but, this was horrible. So, we were talking about the weather, we were talking about this, and he kept bringing Texas up again. So then he's like, well, if I moved anywhere, it would be out of the country because I hate this country. And he must have said that like 5 or 6 different times. So the first time I was like, of course. But then the next time he was like, I hate this country. I just sort of said, I was like, you can leave then. So anyway, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if I'd want to leave the country right now. I think other countries have kind of gone nuts. And he was not letting me, like, get away with shit. So he was like, what do you mean by that? He became like a butch lesbian as soon as I said something that he didn't want to hear. So he's like, what do you mean by that? I was like, oh, well, you know, crazy lockups never ending and stuff. And he's like, well, that's what we had to do to fight the virus and all that. I'm like, Jesus, like, I knew where this was going. So he tells me that he's had, like, a lot of patients with depression and shit like that because of COVID. And I think he meant like they were depressed or anxious or whatever because they had COVID. I don't know what he meant by it. But so I just sort of turned that around on him and I was like, yeah, that's why it's horrible what we have done. You know, 1 in 4 young people have had thoughts of suicide since this began. The rates of domestic violence, the rates of addiction, depression, self-harm, suicide. And I could just see his brain and then he said, he was like, yeah, well, it's a shame that's what we had to do to fight the virus. No. So suddenly, it gets quiet for a second, and he turns to me, all fucking like 10 feet of him, and he goes, like, he's literally looking down at me. This was my view. This is what I was looking at. So he goes, have you been vaccinated? Shit. So I was just like, do I lie? I'm like, you know what? No, fuck that. I don't care enough to lie. Like, maybe if it was somebody I liked or cared about or something, I would be like, I don't know. Like, the last guy, it was like, I felt very tortured about telling him, and he was actually cool about it at first, but I was just like, no, fuck that. So I just very matter-of-factly am like, no, I don't want it. So he, like, is pissed. He's pissed at this point. So he's like, why wouldn't you get it? And I was just like, oh, well, you know, sort of risk assessment. I don't feel like I'm going to get COVID. I'm young. I'm healthy. I don't have comorbidities. I'm not afraid of getting COVID. I'm sorry. Point being, I don't want your goddamn shot. Simple as that. He was just like not accepting that for an answer. So I was kind of like, you know, maybe I'll get it at some point. I just kind of want to see how it goes for other people. And gotta be honest, I'm not too thrilled with how it's going for some people. Because whistleblower just came out, 45,000 deaths, a lot of people in the UK. And I said, and I was like, look at all of these people now who have been vaccinated that are getting it. Like those friggin' Texas Democrats, all the people in Pelosi's office, like there are a lot of people. Who was the other one? There was some celebrity or something. I can't think of the name, but one of you guys tell me. There was somebody. Bill Maher. It was Bill Maher, who had been vaccinated and then he had to like leave his show for weeks. So I've done my own risk assessment. I don't want it. So he was like flipping out and telling me I'm anti-vax. I'm like, no, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not pro-vax. You want it? Get it. God bless. I don't want it. So anyway, though, so I told him about like all these facts and stuff about people getting and stuff. He's like, this is my favorite line of shit that people use, by the way, that he's like, what sources are you using? As if there would be one that's acceptable to them, you know, like, and the thing is, I don't trust any source, so I try to go to the raw data in cases like this, the raw footage when they say someone said something, like, I just try to go to immediate sources. Oh, and by the way, I was trying to ask him where it came from, because, am I crazy? But, like, I kind of thought it was just, like, common knowledge now, even with liberals, that we all acknowledge not only it came from China, but it came from a lab. Am I crazy? So, he wouldn't commit to that. At first he was like, well, animal to human transmission is possible, and all this shit. But, so I said to him, I was like, oh, interesting. Well, fun fact, there actually were no bats at wet markets within 1,500 miles of Wuhan. And he just kind of had nothing to say to that. And then he was trying to say it didn't come from China, it came from Italy. Sure, blame the Italians, whatever, bro. But he was like, well, I just think it's very wrong to blame a whole country for this shit. And I was like, well, no, but they should be held accountable. So then he's just like not letting this go. He's like, well, I think it's very irresponsible of you to not get it. And what if it mutates? What if the virus mutates? And so I just said, I was like, yeah, and what if a plane comes crashing down on us? Like, what if, bro? So I kind of tried to turn his like leftist logic around on him, and I said to him, I was like, oh, so you're not pro-choice? To which he goes, no, I'm not. I'm pro-abortion. He was so proud of himself for that. That was like literally the only time he laughed or cracked a smile. It was fucking miserable. So I basically just hit him with the like, yeah, my body, my choice, you know, you don't believe in it, and I don't know, he was like, of course I'm pro-choice. I was like, but you're not then, because my body, my choice. So by now, he is fuming. Like, you had to see, oh my God, like, he had smoke coming out of his, he was steaming from his wherever. So finally he says to me, he goes, well, if you're not going to get the vaccine, I will tell you what. I don't think you should be allowed to leave your house. I don't think you should be allowed to go get food. I think you should just have to get Uber Eats all the time. And you don't get to do anything. You just have to stay inside. You don't get to go outside. So I said to him, I was like, oh, well, how would I work to pay rent or to buy all of this Uber Eats that I'm apparently ordering? And so he says to me, he's like, you don't. You lose your privileges. So I couldn't help myself. At that point, I was just like, oh, so you're a communist. And he says, no, I'm a Democrat. To which I just said, what's the difference? Oh my God, you guys, you had to see his face. Oh my God, you had to see his face. I was murdered. I was murdered tonight by that face. Oh my God. I wish you guys were there with me. I swear to God. And by the way, I should add, like, I wasn't being nasty. I wasn't being rude. I was having a good ass time. I was saying all this shit with a smile and laughing like we were talking about the weather still. Like, his face was like, ooh. So anyway, though, I think next I'm trying to remember everything because so much happened. But, so at that point, I think he said something about Trump and how, like, Trump is a monster. Trump is pure evil and he just wants to hurt people. So I had to fuck with him a little bit. So I said to him, I was like, yeah, I totally agree. Did you hear about that when Trump passed this horrible crime bill, and he said the only thing we don't do in this bill is hang people for jaywalking. Who would do that? And he just like bought right into it. He was like, oh my God, yes, he's a racist, he's terrible, he's awful, like, blah. And so I was just like, oh, actually, that was Joe Biden. So he just did this shit where he was like, what? I don't understand what you're like even talking about. Like, literally, are you like literally being literal? I don't get it. So then he said something about how like Republicans are evil and they hate poor people and all the things they do against poor people. So I just said, oh, how so? They're not used to being asked that question. They're not used to having follow-up questions or having to defend their beliefs in any way. Usually whatever they say is just like end of conversation, but not with me. So he said some bullshit that like I've read a little bit about this, but not that much, so I can't say I'm all that informed about it, but something about how like the red states are all funded by the blue states. It sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me. Maybe it's federal money. I don't know. So then he says to me, he's like, well, they're just all like poor and miserable in bread cities. And I was like, exactly. They're all miserable in bread cities. And he was like, what? I said red cities. I was like, oh, sorry. I thought you meant like bread lines, because Democrats. So anyway, he, of course, just goes right back to Trump, because that's all they love to talk about. Trump, Trump, Trump. I'm kind of sick of talking about Trump. I'm a little bit over him at this point. Like, can we move on with our lives? But, so anyway, he was just like, oh, well, he was a wannabe dictator, almost a dictator. They always have some, like, qualifier, because even they probably know that that's total bullshit. So, I forget what word he used, but something he's a dictator or whatever. So I was like, again, how so? So he goes, he encouraged people for the insurrection. He encouraged them to commit theft and murder and violence. I can see the circuits like going everywhere in his head. So I was like, no, actually, he said, go in peace. So he's like, no, he told them to fight. Which is so damn infuriating, because it's like, remember Bernie Sanders? Fight for whatever, your fucking communism, whatever the hell he's fighting for, but something I remember. Or like Pocahontas. I didn't call her Pocahontas, Sam. I was trying to be like somewhat friendly, but that was the name of her book, like fight for whatever. So they're just so full of shit. So I said that to him, and I'm like, so why can they use the word and he can't? And this would be like a theme throughout the night, is that like different rules for Democrats, of course, but that's just the theme of our goddamn lives now. So he was like fixating on January 6th. People died. People were literally murdered on January 6th. Multiple people. I was like, no. Actually, that's not true. I was like, one person was murdered by the police. That's it. And he's like, no, they killed cops. And they love cops, by the way. They're suddenly worried about like cops being. I'm so glad to know that. But you talk about January 6th and these motherfuckers turn into like goddamn Blue Lives Matter. He was like, no, that's not true. So I tell him, I'm like, no, actually, they had to retract that. Those were media lies. The one guy died from natural causes days later, and look it up. He's like, well, I haven't heard about that. I'm like, well, do you want to see? He's like, I don't believe that. I'm like, well, can I show you? So I tell him that, and he's like, well, I don't believe that. It's like, bitch, you're free to not believe in gravity, but that doesn't make it true, you donut. Whew. So he goes, don't you think it's interesting how so many people around Trump have, like, lied? So I couldn't help myself. I go, don't you think it's interesting how many people around the Clintons have died? Oh, you guys, you had to see his face. He wanted to push me into the water and dump me into the Hudson. Oh my God, he was like fucking fit to be tied. Holy shit. So he just keeps on bringing up January 6th. And he's like, people were killed because of Trump. People were killed because of Trump. So So I just said to him, I was like, so just wondering though, how about when entire cities were burning for months and, $2 billion in property damage, 30-something deaths, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of police officers injured since you claim to care about police officers. Told you everything with a smile. Ding. So he says to me, he's like, you're anti-BLM? So you're like for police brutality? So I said, I was like, actually, no, I'm very much against police brutality. I'm against Ashley Babbitt being killed, and I'm against, somebody like Philando Castile is a very good example of somebody who was very wrongfully killed, that BLM devoted about that much time to. So, of course, he then tries to tell me that it was mostly peaceful, and which, by the way, is like, my profile on Tinder literally says mostly peaceful. So for someone who cares this much, I'm surprised he didn't pick up on the clues. Or maybe he wanted to, I don't know. It seemed like as soon as I just said the word Texas, like 2 minutes in, he was like fucking ready to take my balls and thumbtack them to the wall. Whew. This was really fucked up. So he says to me, he's like, well, that girl who was shot at the insurrection, she had it coming. But remember, police brutality and love and hope and empathy and rainbows and sunshine. Oh, they're such fucking hypocrites. So I said to him, do you remember the Kavanaugh hearings when protesters would just barge in, literally into the middle of a session of Congress? So do you think they should have been killed too? But yeah, he wouldn't answer that one. So then he just goes to like the leftist standby and is like, well, if they weren't white, they would have been murdered. If they were black, they would have been murdered. So I was like, that's interesting because like BLM lit DC on friggin' fire in June. Or, I mean, do you not remember when the Black Panthers took over the Capitol in California in 1967? They were not killed. And that was 1967, so... And of course he just goes, well, I haven't studied that. I don't know about that. I don't know. He kept bringing it up, and I was like, I said one person died, the other stuff was bullshit, and he's like, well, I haven't heard that. That's not true. So then I guess he brought up, like, other things about Trump that were bullshit, and I said to him, I was like, tell me your thing, like, because I'm telling you right now, like, most of the big things that people claim to hate about Trump are bullshit, and I can prove that to you right now. So, like, I brought up about how one of Biden's first acts in office was undoing Trump's order to lower insulin prices. I don't believe that. I don't know. What are your sources? I don't know. I'm like... Or I talked about the thing where he was asked about MS-13 and called them animals, and then they said, Trump calls all immigrants animals. I don't believe that. I haven't heard about that. What are your sources? I don't know. Every time, though, he'd just be like, well, I don't know. I haven't studied that. And I'm just like, well, I have! That's what I don't get, because I haven't studied a lot of things. I haven't studied Spanish. I haven't studied microbiology. I haven't studied the La fucking cucaracha. But so I don't tell people who are knowledgeable about those things and have studied those things. I don't tell them how to speak Spanish. I don't tell them what microbiology is. And I definitely sure as fuck don't tell them how to dance the motherfucking La cucaracha. Bitches. So this was the point where I kind of made him cry a little bit. And I didn't even do anything. I'm sorry. I swear I didn't do anything. So I'm fiddling with my vape. We're standing on a corner and he just goes, he's like, I just really don't get why you would say these things because it's just really immoral and really fucked. But it just he had tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, but what is wrong with you people? I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe that's a good thing. No, it's not, because, I'm sorry. I was going to say, maybe they're just really nice people, but, no, that's not true. Just be maybe they're just very tender-hearted, and I'm, a bitch on wheels, but so are they. At least I'm honest about it. So, then the conversation switched to, Biden's mental faculties, because I was thinking about that friggin' train wreck of a CNN town hall that he had the other night. And it's crazy to me how people they just pretend to not see it. They pretend to not notice. Nothing to see here, no problem. I said, we don't even know who the hell the president actually is. And he was like, yes, we do know who the president is. And I was like, yeah, corporation, that's who it is. And he was like, no, it's not that. That's a conspiracy theory. God, remember when liberals were against corporatism? Have you guys ever seen Waiting for Guffman? I feel like Catherine O'Hara in that, where like the more she drinks, the more out of control her hair gets. So anyway, he's just going on with his TDS, Trump. And so finally I was like, why are we talking about Trump? He's not the president anymore. Biden is. He didn't really have anything to say to that. And he was just like, well, the entire Republican Party is following Mitch McConnell off a cliff. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's why they're terrible. We agree on something. Exactly. That's why you see it is one party. Obama, Biden, Bush, McConnell, all of them vote all those fuckers out. So I'm thinking, oh, praise Jesus. This is like, I'm sorry, my hair is pissing me off. But so I'm thinking like, this is our moment of agreement. We can come together. No. So he's just like, no, because Democrats just want to do good things. It's just the Republicans stopping them from doing good things. And that's what being a Democrat means. It's just like wanting to help people and do good things. World peace. God, I'm sorry, but like, I used to think that their mentality is that of like a small child, but it's not. Like, liberals, their mentality, it's really of like a fucking beauty pageant contestant. World peace. You know, Democrats want to do good things. Yeah, hello. So I brought up a bunch of stuff, you know, the 2008 recession, how the motherfuckers who robbed this country blind, first thing Obama did was put them in charge of the economy, or Biden's role in that, the bankruptcy bill, all the wars. And so I said to him, I was like, are you anti-war? It's like, of course I'm anti-war. I was like, cool, well, Obama took us from 2 wars to 7 wars, dropped so many bombs in Syria, we ran out of bombs. And this motherfucker is just like, oh, well, he inherited those. He just inherited those from Bush. I'm like, no, he inherited 2, not 7. But that's the thing. I'm sorry, but like these people are so uninformed that they don't even know about Syria, about Yemen bombing weddings. Like they don't know any of this stuff. And I'm sorry, but like the gap between what they know and what they think they know is the size of fucking Earth. So he's like, well, what did Trump do that was good? And I gave him my list, you know, first president in half a century to not start wars, criminal justice reform, all of these things. And he goes, well, he didn't do that to help people. And I was like, right, who are you to know what's inside someone's head? I'm still trying to say this with like a laugh and a smile. Who are you to know what's inside someone's head, bro? Which is always what it comes down to for liberals. They're fucking Miss Cleo. They know what everyone is thinking all the time, what everyone's intentions are. And also, I said to him, I'm like, well, you know, even if he is who you think, like, who really gives a shit? As long as they're good policies and they help people, I don't give a damn what's inside his head for why he did it. I just care that he did it. My hair is out of fucking control. Jesus. I'm never doing a drunk video again. God. So anyway, I forget the specifics, but he would just make these claims about Republicans being horrible and doing different horrible things, and every single one just reminded me of like specific instances where Democrats did that and worse. So I bring it up, and he would just always be like, you're deflecting, you're talking about them, I'm like, no, I just want there to be one objective standard for everyone so that we can look at the full picture of everything and be objective. Like I said, I can be objective. And I was like, you only want to look at half of it. You only want to look at your one side. And he actually admitted that. He was like, yes, I do. It's like, okay, crazy pants. So then it got to the election shit. And, oh, God. And I've said for a long time, like, you know, first of all, I blame our party, I blame my people, I blame all of it, because I think the time to fight this shit was a year before when they were changing all these laws. They were allowed to do this. And I brought this up to him that I talked about that Time Magazine article that talked about the cabal of people working to change laws and control information. Thing is, they were allowed to do that. There was no, we all knew how they were going to cheat. We said it, I said it, friends of mine said it at our events. We knew for months and months and months they were going to cheat. And for there to just be no leadership and no plan in place for that, to me, is unforgivable. And that's a big reason I hope Trump does not run again. So I tried to explain that to him, but, it didn't even go in one and out the other. And he was like, well, Trump told all his supporters that the election was stolen and he led them to believe it. I was like, wait, no. First of all, I don't need Trump to tell me anything. Before he said a word about it, I had my own opinions because I've been watching elections my entire life, and I don't remember a single election where at like 10 o'clock at night, every state just decides to stop counting the votes. A little bit odd, wouldn't you say? And so, of course, he's like, that never happened. Okay. So I said to him, I was like, actually, there is a little bit of precedence for this because I don't know if you remember the primary, the first one in Iowa this last election, Bernie Sanders had very clearly won that. Joe Biden was at like maybe 6% or something like that, and you had to get 15% just to go on to the next round. So what did they do? They said, oh, there was an error. We're going to stop counting. And then magically the next day, Bernie Sanders did not win anymore, and Joe Biden was magically right at 15%. Not 14, not 16, 15% right on the dot, like magic. And he had nothing to say that, because that's kind of something I like to use against them a little bit, is because a lot of them were for Bernie Sanders, so you have to either get them to go against their own beliefs or admit that you're right. It's kind of a cool little trick. So I said to him, I'm like, so there is precedent for this party doing this, and regardless, and I didn't even say to him, like, Trump won or anything like that. I'm like, everyone deserves to know that our elections are legitimate. Every person deserves to have faith in it, and we can't have a harmonious society when half the country has very valid reason to believe that our elections are bullshit. So he just sort of like puffed and had nothing really to say about. So anyway, I'm probably forgetting a bunch of shit. There was so much crazy shit. So, it's so annoying too, because like, I'm tired of having to talk about Trump. I'm tired of having to defend Trump, but these people just have no relationship with the truth. They don't live in reality. They don't care about facts. So it's like, I have to always defend Trump because it's not even about being a Trump supporter. It's about being a truth lover. So I think the last topic that came up briefly was he started to get into like voter ID shit. And I was just like, ooh, yes. I was like, I got you. So, as soon as he started to talk about it, I was just like, yes, please go there with me. Come on, bring it. Go there with me. That was kind of the one time I dropped the smiling bullshit, whatever. God, I'm so fake. So I was just waiting for it. I was like, yes, please explain to me why black people are too stupid to get an ID. Please go there with me. So I was just like, yes, let's talk about this. And he just backed off immediately. I think he kind of maybe knew that I had shit over him, or that, like, I don't know, he was not going to win this one. He didn't win any of them, really. Poor guy. I think I kind of kicked his ass hard enough for one evening. So, anyway, by now, we had, like, walked through the park to the end of the park and backwards, and that now we were sort of, like, on my block, passing my place. Oh, he lives 2 blocks away from me. I know I'm going to have to fucking run into him at some point. This is going to be horrible. Fuck my life. I don't know why I'm laughing about this whole thing, by the way. It's like, I'm the one who's going to die alone, so. So anyway, we're on my block, and he says, he's like, I'm going to go home. And I'm just like, yes, thank God, because I don't know, I feel bad. I never want to, like, hurt anyone's feelings on a date. You know, I've had that done to me so many fucking times. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so I never know, like, how long you kind of have to stay on a bad date. Like, how long is socially acceptable before you can leave. So anyway, I went back into my, like, smiling, passive-aggressive shit. Oh, I'm so passive-aggressive. And I just said to him, I was like, oh yeah, totally, me too. So, yeah, look up that stuff I told you. So he goes, well, I'm not going to because I know it's not worth my time. Sure, Jan. So I said to him, I was like, or you just don't want to find out the facts. Yeah, that takes a bit of humility. I was so passive aggressive. Oh god, this is so cringy. So he, oh my god. So he says to me, he's like, yeah, I don't see any way we would have any chemistry together. And with a big smile, I said, I was like, definitely not. So I'm thinking that we can like laugh and have like a civil, friendly laugh over how spectacularly not a match we are. Oh no. So he says to me, it gets quiet for a moment, it gets silent for a moment, and he says to me, he's fucking stone-faced, and he says to me, I would rather jump out a window than see you again. So I said to him, well, go ahead first, make it count. I'm gonna laugh, dude. They're gonna leave there crying and be like, oh, I hate gay guys. Leave me alone. I swear, a date is an experience you have with another person that makes you appreciate being alone. So that's my story. I'm sorry, this is probably way longer than I intended it to be, and God, I look like the fucking Crypt Keeper. But, you know, someone said to me the other day, they're like, I feel a lot better about my miserable love life by hearing about yours, because yours is much worse. I was like, thank you, that's what I'm going for, that's my goal. And Greta, I should say hi, Greta, I love you. She said my stories brighten her day, so I love you so much, you can visit me. Anyway, that's my story. I'm gonna have a new video next week. Excuse the mess on this one, because it's very impromptu. But yeah, check out all my stuff below. I'm back on Twitter, all of that. Patreon, I'm launching locals, all of that. Go check it out. Stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, and I forgot to tell you. So, I was walking home, and I get another text from a friend who's like, yeah, go get some. Get laid. Ooh, the thought of that. So I just wrote back, I'm like, I'm sorry, I would rather put my dick in a meat grinder.